there's actually one of the infamous technology laws that says that storage over time gets cheaper. And it does actually, as long as you're talking about the same storage at the same performance level, it does get cheaper over time. Density goes up, that sort of thing. And so what's been good is that for people that are experiencing intense growth, but no change in performance, then ultimately you're trying to get to the point where it kind of cancels itself out. If you're seeing a modest increase, you're probably above that line, but there are some people who actually enjoy a reduction. If you go to the next slide, Debbie. But realistically, what happens in technology is people get tired of however fast today is and want to go faster. And we've seen a huge market in terms of wanting to go faster and faster and faster. And those things cost different. The folks that are trying to mix in super, super fast tend to see the numbers go up much more aggressively. And so in my travels, I've met a number of organizations where the big panic is, okay, so let's say I accept that it's just going to get bigger. Let's say I embrace it. Let's say I know where all my data is, and I know what's important and I know what's not, and I kind of have all of that pulled together. But I also know how many coins I have in my pocket. How do I afford it? What do I do when it breaks? The performance of the storage makes a huge difference. There's a really, really big difference between archival storage, which might be at 0.5 cents a gig or 1/10 of a cent a gig, and the fastest NVMe storage on the planet, which might be at $1 a gig. Like, there's a huge spread there in terms of, what you can get at what cost. It also matters how often you access storage. There are economics around the ability to get something once versus the ability to get something 10 times a second. There's also compromises to be made in how long it takes to get the data. So in the kind of an example, in the older days, if you will, you wanted a backup that's on tape out at Iron Mountain, it's 3 days to get the tape. And that was acceptable. In the modern storage era, there's similar stuff where you can make a request for data and it'll be there in a couple of hours, not a couple of days, but a couple of hours, which is very different than I double click on it on my computer and bam, it's up. Right. So there is room to introduce these different metrics of expectation and alter costs based on them. Shared and dedicated platforms. So, anybody who's using the public cloud and is making statements about how it's cheaper for this or that, the reason is those are shared platforms, right? What I'm suggesting is it doesn't make it easier, but there is a whole world of options there. And most people are able to put together a strategy where, it's not hard for the user. It's potentially a little complicated to pull all the pieces together, but generally you can get to a number. You can get to a number that's sustainable now. You can get to a number that's sustainable in the future. And in this digital economy, you can even get to models that are operational versus capital, where you can make sure that you're keeping pace with the reduction in costs or the increase in revenues as it relates to the cost of storage. You can relate those things so that, at least from the organizational point of view, you're doing better than break even. It's just not as simple as taking today's number and multiplying by a bigger quantity. So how do we help? How does Mavenspire help? If you haven't met us before, we've been around for more than 20 years, and we are problem solvers. We're challenge solvers. We're a consulting firm. And our smart as a service consulting kind of brains can help in a couple different areas. We can help you map your data. We can help you figure out what you have, classification of it, the ins and outs of it that help you when you get to the costing model to figure out where you can put it, where it'll be okay and where it won't be okay. And we can help you maintain it. If you want to just make it someone else's problem to keep track and store all this data, we can do that for you. We can help you with the advisory side of answering some of the biggest questions right now, help you with the strategic plans, help you to figure out what your different options are and which ones are going to get you the best impact. And I can help you figure out a business intelligence strategy and start working through it, which is really, again, about monetizing that data. And then finally, in the area of economics itself, we can do the assessment on your current data storage, as well as figure out how to create a TCO and a strategy for data storage budget that's going to take you against your current growth curve. You know, if you need to be able to be a culture of yes, and you can't figure out how to get there, we can help you get there. We can also help introduce to you other financing and CapEx and OpEx and as a service models that can help break down and link increased revenue, reduce costs to the spend that you're doing. And make that something that is actually very palatable to your organization rather than something that's big and scary.